Greetings and welcome to the Destination Gore Trans podcast, bringing in-depth interviews with artists, label people, organizers from the golden age of the 90s to the modern era. My name is Tibus, and I'm here with the one and only Simon Peter.
Hey there, I'm excited to be here. Let's talk about Gotrans. This is the second part of our interview with Billy Cosmosis, and if you have not yet listened to the first part, go and check it out.
First solo record was Synergy, and the first thing I want to ask about that's the first one that uses this classic Cosmosis logo.
Yeah, well, again, it was a backdrop. It was a party backdrop. I knew an artist called Tim Dow, and he painted the most amazing things. So I said to him, Tim, can I use that for an album sleeve? And I actually bought the film afterwards. And again, that was a backdrop painted with fluoro paint and then shot under UV light. And yeah, so that was also a painting, a trippy painting. Same thing as Synergy, actually. Sorry, Cosmology.
And it just, one of the best things about Synergy, not just, it's a gore classic as well, the liner notes in the CD, I love them, all of that you learn something about the idea of why these tracks came together and what was the idea behind them.
All right, someone that reads the liner notes. Well done. Yeah. I actually, I haven't got very much feedback about those liner notes, but I was quite pleased. I thought I'd just write a little something about each of the tracks. But yeah, I don't think I've seen that on any other tracks, albums, come to think of it. But yeah, I'm glad someone appreciated it anyway.
I actually wanted to ask you, did the Flora Funksters transcend into the master dimension in 2012? That's what you wrote it.
Oh, you're talking about the no, what was it called?
The Intergalactic Fluoro Funkster.
Yeah. But there was a track. There was a harmonic convergence.
Yes, yeah, right.
In a rainforest party in a rainforest in Australia near Byron Bay during the harmonic convergence. This certain time of the stars and the planets aligning and it was a pretty wild party out in the forest, and there was a moment in it where there was a moment where the music stopped and all you could hear were frogs and weird jungle noises. I don't know quite what happened, but we were just we were playing, we paused in the music, and then we I don't know how, but someone said, "Yeah, right now it's the harmonic convergence." Something coming. Wow, that's really interesting. And then we played "The Frog" by Extreme. It starts off with those. Yeah. Are you referring to that? Because I think I mentioned something about harmonic convergence or something in the
liner notes. You mentioned that your idea was to create a groove to rather wiggle your bum instead of stomping with your feet. And in case you didn't know, you're becoming an intergalactic fluorofunkster.
Oh, hey.
And the fluorofunksters will transcend into the matter energy space and time dimension.
In 2012,
Yeah.
May of 2012.
It must have happened. It must have.
Which one is your favorite track from this record?
Yeah, I quite like Explores from Space, actually. And Down at the Crossroads I like as well. People seem to like that one.
Yeah, I love the story about that one, how you spooked a lady in Greece or something.
Greek journalist, yeah. He thought it was serious, but interesting.
And it was really something, I think, even at the time, but even still today. I mean, few musicians in the scene do kind of like odd, different style or genre bending musical interludes or something, but this one is like really starting out as a blues guitar-y track, and like has this different kind of beat, and all of a sudden it changes into this massive kind of psychedelic trancey floor killer track. Basically it's and it's I can imagine how it have an impact on the dance floors back in the day. How was it to play that one out when it came out?
It's a very, I get requested that one a hell of a lot. There was quite reasonably recently, I was at an outdoor party and this girl came up to me and she said, "You have to play Down at Crossroads." I said, "Money." She just kept hassling me, and when she was on the dance floor, she said, "Keep playing, forget it, play." I said, no. And I played a little bit later, and she went bananas. But yeah, it's a good tune, that one. Funny enough, I played it to my brother, that track, that album, and after I finished it, I said, "What do you reckon?" He goes, "That track is the best one, easy. That'll be a hit." I said, "Really? What, the Down the Crossroads one?" Yeah. And he was right. That's the one, main one people remember. You know, all the tracks on the album.
From this era, from the Synergy and Cosmology, you have released 2 retro collections back in the day. Also, you released it physically a couple of years ago. My question is here that some tracks are missing. For example, "A Dance of Man" and "Deus" or "Deus," I don't know how to pronounce it. Do you plan to release a third volume, or
No, I hadn't planned to. The reason that those don't exist on this is because I didn't have copies of them. I didn't have a digital copy. I still don't, of Dance of Man, and I don't have a digital copy of what was the other one? Deus. Yeah, I only recently got a digital copy of Deus. I mean, the one I had was like a recording of the vinyl. I was playing that out with all the clicks and pops of it. But yeah, that's the only reason that wasn't on there, is because I was compiling it. I thought, well, I don't have it anywhere. I was looking for old DATs, and I couldn't find it. I thought, fuck it. I've got enough tracks for it now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, but by the way, that one came out on the Holophonic Records, right? Which was basically your
that's right.
your own record label to release music on, right? Is that still an active thing, or are you really planning to release things on your own in the future?
It's still a thing. I haven't, it's just like anything these days. It's just a brand.
Yep.
It's not not a record label with a little staff of people that are working on and all that kind of stuff. But I hadn't planned to release stuff and self-release any stuff. No, I mean, because I have enough offers of people asking me to, "Hey, do you want to do this and do it on my label?" And they've got more of a distribution network, not much, but more than I have. And I'm not going to get paid very much anyway if I release it by myself or whether I release it with them. So I usually release it with someone who's got some kind of network of distribution. That's what I've been doing up till now. Generally speaking, I tend to make a contract with them, simple contract, just saying that you have the right to exploit it for 18 months or 2 years, and then I retain the copyright. So I like to retain the ownership of my music I make, because I make it.
Yeah.
Don't mind someone exploiting it for a while, doing a deal, and then paying me some money to do it. But even this, yeah, it's different these days.
you were very active during the early 2000s and released 6 records in 10 years. 5 with Cosmosis, 1 with Mumbo Jumbo, and your sound also progressed naturally towards the more psytrance sound from Goa trance. Was this a conscious decision of yours? Or how did that happen? How did this shift happen?
Well, I think it was just it's just an evolution, a natural evolution, if that's the right word. Not even sure that's the right word. It's just the natural flow of a music scene. As people are all interested in it, and everybody listens to everybody else, so everybody's influenced by everybody else. So I was making music influenced by the things that I liked at the time. And so as time moves on, the flow changes, the flow of the music changes. That's all it really is. I mean, when in the early days of so-called Go trance, it's not like everybody jumped and go, okay, these are the rules of Go trance. We must write it like this. And everybody has to do that, because it was the same then. It was just that's what the music sounded like then. And it kind of slowly morphed into other things as people got interested in newer sounds or different or more novel things, or for better or for worse, it has to be said, because there's a lot of changes, which a lot of dead ends of evolution that it went down as well, like I just want to make a point to something you said earlier. You said that what was it? You said that the music changed and it became unfashionable and stuff. As far as I was concerned, all I've ever done is made the music that I've liked. That's all I've ever done. I haven't ever consciously gone, oh, what's happening now? Oh, I should do more of that. Oh, no, maybe I should do more of that because these people are doing, that doesn't come into it at all. It's just like I make what I like. That's it. That's the whole of the story. And if my music's changed, it's because I've become, oh, I like that sound. Oh, that's interesting. So I kind of go and explore that for a bit, or go and explore this for a bit. Some of which, as I said, for better or for worse, some experiments have been better than others. But it's just what I became interested with at the time. And funny enough, I've seen, especially with a lot of younger or newer musicians or producers that come into the scene, I often get asked the question, I don't know what kind of style I should make, whether I should make this style or that style. And I always say, just make what you like. Just do what you like. Don't worry about it. So just do what you like. Do what you do. And at least that if you consistently do what you do, you'll have a style. Instead of following everybody else, then you'll just be another generic, sounding like everybody else thing. So, and I've seen quite a lot of there was, let's say the first iteration of new style after Goa trance, so-called Goa trance at the time, was everybody was getting, oh, this is the progressive sound. Oh, forget that old Goa trance stuff. That's the old music. That's from 95. Now this is 1999. What you want is progressive music, and all that. And I've seen, a lot of the people that jumped on the bandwagon there just disappear, and then there was electro. And I remember being lectured in a gig, on the way to a gig in the back of a car by two guys that were into electro. And they said, oh, you're still making that old kind of trance music. Oh, man, that's so over. No, electro is what we want to be into. No, you're making that old shit. Oh, that's, and I can't remember who these guys' names were, but they disappeared, because they got into a little fad that lasted for about 2 years that no one danced to on the dance floor, actually. I really liked the idea of electro, but you looked on the dance floor when electro was playing, all that 130 BPM stuff. No one was fucking dancing. And then I would go on, or someone else, making trance, and the dance floor would fill up, So, where are those guys now? Disappeared. So, if you do what you like doing, that's the best way to have a career, or to be at least sound original, at least keep your integrity. Yeah, and going back to what about the idea of Go trance resurgence, I think there was a lot of stuff that wasn't explored in the rush from trance, from so-called Goa sound into into the new thing. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't explored. I almost made a kind of mental note. Oh, well, hang on a sec. I haven't quite finished with all that, but there's some interesting things going on, so I follow those threads. Dogs are barking. But quite recently, I thought, I want to go back and explore some of the things that because it was passed over so quickly. It always struck me that there was more things to explore. So this is the project that I've got going with Yanis Filteria, which is to go back a little bit and to take some diversions, forks off of that road back there, where for me the music was more musical, more colourful, and more emotive. That's the thing which is missing from a lot of, for me, today's trance. Is it's kind of lost all the kind of emotional aspect of it, any emotional colour in it. Don't get me wrong, I like just a big loud kick, bass, and grinding riff as much as anybody else. But if that's the whole night, it's a bit boring after a while, because it's the same thing and it's got no emotional dimension. So that's kind of what me and Yanis are exploring. Yanis has always kind of made that kind of music anyway, because he's a goer, an old school fan and freak anyway. So it's great to work with Yanis, because he's not only old school in his music appreciation, but he's old school in the way he writes music as well. Unlike most of the guys that I've worked with, he doesn't just sit down at a computer and then write a riff. He actually sits down and actually composes melodies to start with, or any old crappy sound, but he wants the melody to sound right to start, the sequence of notes. After that, he gets into making sounds. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely. We need that kind of approach, I think, to arrive on something more genuine or original, so to say. So you had this kind of musical approach as a musician, playing an instrument, trying to record riffs on a synthesizer or on a guitar, and start to build from that. And also, I assume you had the experience as a party goer, somebody who also listens to the music and enjoys it on the dance floor. And then you were also DJing for a while, or I don't know, is that still something you do sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot, because I usually get booked to play my own music rather than be booked as a DJ. So I don't play very often other people's music. I just generally get booked to play my own, so that's what I end up doing.
Where did the name Bilbo Baggins come from? Are you a huge Tolkien fan?
No, I mean, yeah, Tolkien is awesome. The books rather than the films, but no, someone used to call me that at school. Used to call me Bilbo, because I think he was a Lord of the Rings fan. So he used to call me Bilbo, but it's Bill. So that's where that came from. More, and of course I read The Hobbit when I was younger. So
If you think about your whole back catalogue, which is your most favorite track?
So, which are my favorite tracks? Oh God, that's a difficult one to. Yeah, I quite like Spanish Gypsy.
Yeah, I love that track.
There's probably some others, but I can't think of them right now.
And which one are you the most proud? Which one was when you finished it, you feel that, yes, this I accomplished something?
I usually think like that about all of them. And they are they're either they fulfill that or they don't. Is some are better than others.
Was there any track that was particularly difficult to record, or there?
I'll tell you one that was a right pain in the ass to record was Howling at the Moon.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Insanely complicated track that we used loads of bits of equipment that we borrowed that was all midied up in the studio, and then we had some disaster in the middle of it when we lost all the samples because
oh my gosh,
the 40 megabyte jazz drive corrupted. So I had to recreate all the samples again. And then, it was just a disaster. It just took ages to record this bloody thing. And it's also a really long track as well. So it was mixed live with a couple of us on the mixer, because it was mixed, as were a lot of the, let's say, the first 3 albums were mixed with machines going into a 24-track mixer, and then they were mixed live. You had to remember to send this echo at this point, turn that down, turn the bass down at this point, turn it up, fade that up at this point. And so the recording, I'll explain a little bit about the recording method of those times. So I would have a bunch of synthesizers, or we would have a bunch of synthesizers being triggered from a MIDI sequencer of a computer, and effects on a certain rack going on sends on the desk. And then that would be going out of the stereo output of the desk onto a DAT player, which is record a 2-track. So we'd have to hit pause and record on the DAT and go on the DAT. So it's recording like a tape recorder, hit play on the sequencer, and then have to remember, as the track played, I have to turn this send up, turn the reverb down on that, fade this one up at that point. And so you'd get halfway through and then you'd screw up and think, shit, stop the sequence, turn the DAT off, rewind the DAT or whatever, and then hit, And so it was a live capture of a performance on the mixing desk as much as and run by the sequencer. And at this point, you'd have to tweak the filter up and down, when it got to this point. So you'd have to go between the synth, the mixing desk, and all that. And then if you did about 8 or 9 takes, you'd eventually get a take, listen back to which was the best one. If there's a really good front half of a mix there and a really good back half, you'd take the two, glue them together, and then that will be the track. So it was a kind of performance of a mix, a live mix, as opposed to an automated mix, which is bounce. Now I just hit bounce and I've automated everything. It just goes, copies exactly as I've made it. Anyway, the point was that Howling at the Moon was using that methodology, and we had loads of machines all set up, and it was insanely complicated. There's so many bloody parts going on, and then we had this thing where we lost all the data and we had to recreate it. So it was a major pain in the ass to get it done, but I was really glad when it was like, thank God we got one down. That's done now. And the other fact, I think originally, I edited about a minute out of that, so it's probably 12 minutes. This is really
Wow.
long for a track. Like over the top is bad enough as it is. I think it's about 11 minutes on the vinyl or something like that. So yeah, it's just too long for a track, really. But people like that one, they really
An awesome track.
yeah. And I listen to it now and I think, Jesus, it sounds like. So I must have been really angry when I wrote that. Not that I wrote it. I wrote this with Sam Eltman as well. And he brought the monopoly along to the gig, to the zoo, called monopoly, which is one of the main instruments on that, with that really clangorous oscillator sync. Sorry, no, cross mod on the monopoly. Yep. It's a particularly clangy, aggressive sound, which is great.
Back in the day, then the tracks were closer to you because you needed to go through this process that you just mentioned. Nowadays, of course, you can just hit the bounce again the next day if you're not liking something. So I think you were more attached to your own music. Is that true?
It's attached. Let me tell you what the differences are. One, if you have a track set up on a mixer, you can't make another track until you finish that one, because how can you? Because the mixer's all set up. All these knobs are all in different places. So in order to make another track, you'd have to note these down on a notebook, on a 24-track mixer with the buses and all that, and have all the effects patches. It would it's possible, but it's a major nightmare. So basically, until that track's finished, you can't make another one. That's a disadvantage. It's also an advantage. It means you get stuff done, finished. Because the temptation today, when you've got Total Recall on any machine, you just open it up, is that you never finish the track. 'Cause, oh yeah, but it's not quite finished because maybe I could just tweak that bit, and yeah, or no, it's not finished, and you just there's never a point where you are forced um to execute one of the most important functions in artistry or being an artist, which is knowing when it's finished. So the declaration, this work is finished, is really important if you're an artist, whether you're a painter, sculptor, or whatever, because you can always carry on. And there is interesting, there's a point as an artist, as a musician, where there is diminishing returns, right? You do more and more work for less and less gain, and it gets infinitely small. You never reach the end point, so you can spend another day just tweaking the tiniest detail, but no one notices it. So that's one thing you got to realize is the law of diminishing returns, and then knowing the point at which you need to stop is the other one. So they're both linked. So if you have today's total recall stuff, people don't finish tracks. I speak to a lot of young producers. Yeah, I've been working on this one for 6 months now, and it's not quite like it. Well, it doesn't quite. It's like, dude, finish your tracks, But back then, you had to kind of finish it to get it out of the studio, so you get on with another one, and then here it is, and then release it quick. Get the stuff done up to a reasonable enough point, and then get rid of it and put it out. Get on with the next one. That's what that encouraged, and I'm grateful for that. And this is an important discipline to keep in mind if you're making music: is get the thing finished. Okay, it's done. Get it out next. All right. If it's not exactly how you want, put what you want into the next track.
Is there a particular track that you don't like that much, but the audience wants it and the audience really enjoys it, and you need to play because of that?
Yeah, I can't remember actually what. There's a few I can't bring into mind about, but Howling at the Moon is one of those because it's just too much for me.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll play it occasionally, but
It's like post-traumatic stress, right? A little bit.
yeah, no, yeah, that's what you mean. But no, it's just a full-on thing. I'm just not in the mood for it myself a lot of the time 'cause it's so full on. Yeah, so there are some others. I can't bring them to mind though, but there are definitely some others.
Was there any particular equipment, synth, something that you held on to? Has your studio changed a lot over the years? I would assume that it become a little bit stringed down, more digitized or whatever. But was there any equipment, synth, or something that you held on to from those days?
None whatsoever.
Okay.
I can't think of one thing. No, I mean, you need to make music these days. You need a laptop and some decent monitors.
Yep.
And hopefully, if you got the room treated.
Treated. Yep.
Yeah, but you don't need anything else. You don't need anything else from there. But I do have a couple of hardware synths that I use. But that's not because of the sound necessarily, it's because of the interface. With analog stuff, I don't think it's necessarily the sound quality, it's the analog interface on the old synths that made them so pleasant to use, and because you can use multiple parameters, alter multiple parameters at one time instead of one at a time with the mouse. Have a couple of knobs that you can tweak, two of which at the same time, it just gives a whole different experience, and you can do so much more with it. So hence I have a couple of synths which have got knobs and sliders which send MIDI data, and I just map them. That way I just get a much better feel. And then I just hit record and then play in the real-time performance of the notes and the knobs, and then go back and tweak a little edit on the automation data if it needs it. I find that a much better way to work, much more intuitive. Yeah, rather than the mouse. But can't think of anything I've got. I don't. No, it's all kind of modern stuff. Unlike Yanis Filteria, who takes a completely old school approach. I mean, his studio, I call it the Stockholm Synth Museum. Just an absurd amount of old, interesting, and rare synthesizers. And
Yeah, I bet he has a monopoly as well or something like that.
yeah, and the rest. Yeah.
Yeah. And we mentioning Yanis, you had some other interesting collaborations throughout the years. How did you met Seb Taylor, for instance, from Shakta? You had a couple of tracks together with him as well, right?
True, yeah. Well, Seb was on the party scene in London.
Yep.
And that's where I met him. I either met him on the party scene or I met him at a gig when I was playing and he was playing at the same time. But one of those two, I spent time with him at parties and playing on the same stage with him. He's a mate. He's a great bloke, great sense of humour, brilliant musician. And he works fast. I'll tell you a story with him. Once I phoned him up, I said, because he lived in the middle of London and I lived on the outskirts. I said, Seb, I'm coming over. I'll see you about 1 o'clock maybe. He goes, yeah. He said, yeah. I'm just in the studio now. I'm just getting to work. I'll see you when you get there. He said, I'll be getting on with it. I said, okay, cool. So by the time I got there, I went up to the studio. He said, listen to this. And he played me a track. I said, great. He goes, yeah, I just wrote that. But when it was the phone call, it's like 3 hours it took me to get there, the bus and the tube and all that. And he said, but we'll start another one. So we wrote another one. But yeah, he's funny because he goes through long periods where he doesn't do any much work in the studio. Then he gets and writes loads of music. Then he doesn't do much, for a couple of weeks. Then he goes, right, play some music. Whereas I'm usually plodding on, just plod, do a little bit each day, a little bit each day, a little bit each day. Funny, he calls me Tortosis. He was moaning that I was taking too long because I was like, yeah, but do you think I should do this? And I was like, no, maybe not actually. And he's like, dude, that's fine. Because he get that done, track done. Works and he's got a different working mind than mine. Tortosis because like tortoise.
I get it. Yeah, I know Seb. He's a great guy. I imagine it was a lot of fun working with him.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, we did that track. It's got a female sample in it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's got
Music Terror, is it?
Oh, that's the one with the South Park sample, the Visitors, and then there was another one as well. You mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, Scientific, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. But there's another one. It's a Supernatural. It's called. I think it was on. I think I put it on Intergalactic. Anyway, on the single version that came out on the record version, I think we put it out on vinyl. Yeah, I think we put it out on vinyl on Phantasm. Anyway, it's got this ridiculous skit at the beginning where it's got him impersonating being a Japanese DJ, talking about Cosmosis and Shachter playing live in Tokyo. We just come back from Tokyo playing some gigs. And he does this really good impersonation of a Japanese DJ talking about Cosmosis and Shachter playing live in a really ridiculous way. And I spent ages making the sound of a radio tuning in with a sine wave, and we put all these sound effects like white noise. So it sounds like like someone's tuned into a radio station. And you got this Japanese DJ talk. It's just really ridiculous. And God knows how we got away with it. We just what the hell's that got to do with anything? But we just put it on the beginning of the track because it was fun. Because it's fun and we have fun working, so we just do the most ridiculous things. It's a bit like Mitch is also the same. Mitch Mumbo Jumbo. We just used to make put things in tracks that made us laugh, that we thought were funny or ridiculous. They would. Hence, you get fucking Homer Simpson samples. It's like kind of nonsense in the track, and even ridiculous synthesizer noises that just made us laugh. And they listed this as ridiculous, so we put it in the track. But yeah, it was good fun, Mitch.
Later, you started to produce more and more psychedelic down-tempo music with the guitar. And what do you think? Why is down-tempo, well, whether you call it ambient, whatever, so important for the psytrance crowd? There are usually different stages for it. What do you like in the slower tempos?
Oh, it's much more. You've got much more room to explore the space, because banging along at a high tempo with a dance groove and a full-on dance groove, full-on meaning like 145 or whatever. I don't mean full-on the start, just like any trance tempo with a 16th note bass line and banging kick is there's not much space for anything else really, apart from some synthesizer noises. So if you've got slower tempo, there's much more room to explore different sonic textures or different ideas or even chord changes and stuff. It's, I haven't done enough of it, I think, because it's a vast area to explore. And you aren't so restricted by the format as well. Because trance is a very restricted format. It's a paradigm of, tempo based around, centered around 145 BPM. With a bass line like this, which doesn't change chords because it needs to be rooted on the same root note to be trancey, straight 16th note rhythm. There's a very little variation in rhythm. So it's quite restrictive. It's very restrictive. And if you stray outside of that, it stops being trance music. So if you want to make trance music, you've got to stay inside of that. So, with so-called psybin or ambient or whatever you call it, it's there are no rules, which is also interesting. Back to the early days of Goa trance or whatever we called it these days, there was it hadn't yet crystallized into a style. So if you listen to something from 95, 96 or 94, whatever, you listen to Total Eclipse, it sounds totally different to Astral Projection. It sounds totally different to, Trance Wave, different and hallucinogen. Everybody sounds different. Everybody has their, and me and Jez's stuff around then sounds, you could almost identify a record, but oh, that sounds like blah, 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 and you'd probably be right. Because the style hadn't yet crystallized, because it was still open and it was still everybody was like, oh, we're exploring this space of new ideas with filter sweeps and trancey tempos. It hadn't crystallized into one thing. And that is really what I miss. It's that freedom to explore all different kind of cracks without everybody going, hang on a second, the trance police coming on. Sorry, trance, So and a lot of the originality gets lost because people were just influenced by what other people were doing, but they weren't like totally hemmed in by it.
You made an album with Aja, which was recorded in the Giger Museum. Can you a little bit tell about it? I heard that it was on a 5-hour jam, actually. And
Right, yeah.
I think you made it into a CD. That's crazy, because just that 80 minutes is awesome. I can imagine how 5 hours of this music would have been. And I saw you at Zora, I think, in 2013 with Aja, but you played more up-tempo stuff.
That's right.
Well. So can you tell a little bit about that collaboration? And did you plan to release the up-tempo stuff as well, or that never was a plan? Because that was something really unique I never heard since basically 2013 or so.
We never got around to finishing that particular thing to the point where it got to be compiled on an album. But the first one at the Giga Museum, Aj's brother is a famous tattoo artist, and there was a tattoo, and his sister-in-law also, and there was some kind of tattoo convention or something, art show stroke among the tattooist community, and art installation thing at the Giga Museum, which is a fascinating place in itself and an amazing location in Switzerland. And originally, Andrew was going to play an acoustic guitar in a corner, with a bit of delay or whatever on it, and over some kind of pads, just as a kind of ambient music, so people could wander around, look at the exhibits, kind of thing, and watch the real-time painting of these four artists who were going to paint something real-time, as an art installation event. That's the original plan. And he said, well, why don't you come along? I said, yeah, okay, that sounds great. I'll come along and, bring the guitar and maybe a synth, make a few other noises and stuff. And it kind of grew from there, and Adja being Adja, decided to bring about 2 studios worth of equipment in the end. It got a bit out of control. So in the end, he said, well, if we get another laptop, we can record it. And then if you bring your laptop, you can do this. And, and in the end, we had, I think, was it 3 laptops or 4? He had a laptop playing some loops and stuff. I had a laptop, which I was using for effects and to guitar processing. We had a laptop that was recording everything multi-tracked. And there was a Chaos pad, there was an acoustic guitar, 2 electric guitars, a bass guitar, and there was a few synthesizers live, and that we could tweak, and it was all MIDI'd up, so all the knobs. Anyway, so we had this big bloody studio installation there in the end, and we just multi-tracked it, the whole thing. Adja's fantastic for that. He will always, if you're going to make some music, he's like, yeah, let's record it, because we'll catch something. Most people are like, yeah, we'll just have a jam, and then record something later. But no, he records everything and then sorts back through it. And he's like, there's some gold there. So, which is a fantastic idea. So that's what we did. And we just ended up with this 5-hour jam of just us jamming on loops. Whenever I played bass, I got bored of playing bass, I'd go and pick up the acoustic. Then he would pick up the bass. And then he'd put the bass down and play electric, and we'd have the synth bass going. And, we'd just kind of swap around, and just jam over these kind of pre-prepared chord sequences and rhythms running from his laptop. So that's what we did. We multi-tracked it, and we had 5 hours of this material. And so we thought, we'll chop some of them down and get because it's a ridiculous amount. So we just kind of, most of the work in making the album was reducing and picking which bits to, this section from here to here sounds good, so we'll just chop that 8 minutes out, and then glue on the intro that we did earlier and glue on an outro, and then produce it a bit, or fix this guitar balls up here. There's a few fluffs, so I'll fix that and then overdub, and but this is essentially, and then mix it. So he had some of the tracks at his studio, he mixed it there. I had some of the tracks in my studio, I mixed it there, and we compiled it from there. And so it was a live performance, but a lot of it is cut out because it would just be obviously way too much for anybody to listen to. So it's a kind of edited down highlights, really.
Yeah, it seems like you started out as a session musician, so you're kind of used to traveling for gigs and doing recording in different places. So it's like it seems like whenever you have a collaboration with somebody, you're recording somewhere else. How was it with Quantica, for instance? Did you travel to Ibiza for that one, or?
No, I was living in Ibiza.
Oh,
I'm living in England now, but I was living in Ibiza for God knows how many years now. Is it? I can't remember. I think it was 4 years. But yeah, I was living not far away from Eric, and so we did a lot of collaborating while we were there. And Joe Sonic Species was living on the island as well, so we used to collaborate with him. We get him over to the studio, and we'll have a jam and record some stuff. And so me and Eric did some trance trancey stuff, psychedelic trance, I guess you'd call it. And we did some kind of yeah, of course we did Ibiza jams, which is kind of idea when we just record a load of stuff, have some loops, and then just jam it. In fact, we did that a lot of that in my apartment. And
So was there a decision for you to move to Ibiza before you thought about recording with other people, or how did that come about?
no, I just I was living in Switzerland earlier for 8 years, and I ended up going back to England for a while. Then I kind of thought, well, I actually want to go and live in the sunshine for a bit. So I went to Ibiza, not for the partying, by the way. I used to live at the quiet end of the island, which is all lovely and shanty. Not, I avoided going down into the Babylon area. You know, it's an awful place, but beautiful island, lovely, lovely climate, not too hot, beautiful in winter. But yeah, so just ended up doing a lot of work with Eric there, and some work with Joe.
Regarding the videos, so you have done a lot of videos about a narrowboat that I suspect you had.
Oh, I see, right, yeah, now we're on the boat. That's right, yeah, yeah. After I came back from Ibiza, I decided to live on a boat for over 2 years, and just cruise all around the rivers and canals of England and Wales. I just really fancied doing that, and so I bought an 18-meter boat and moved onto it and just chugged off and just pulled up in places. And I was writing music on the boat. I had a little studio. It was absolutely awesome, and it was about the time when that stupid lockdown nonsense came along, you know. And so I actually was fine, you know. It was fine because on the canals and on the rivers, people didn't really care about that kind of thing, you know. We were some places I was moored up. People went on and off each other's boats. We were all hanging around having barbecues on the bank. You know, it's a great time in a lot of ways. You know, so it didn't really affect me so much. You know, I wasn't cooped up in some apartment somewhere. And every time I got a bit bored, I just chugged on down the river or down the canal to a different part of the countryside. Most of the time, I stayed out in the country, away from everywhere. It's a gorgeous time, actually. I kind of miss it. But I came back onto dry land.
Yeah, so it seems like you're not the kind of musician who just sets up the studio and lives there for the rest of his life and then tries to invite inspiration into the home, but you seem to travel around a lot and collaborate with all kinds of people, move to different places all the time.
Generally speaking, yeah, that's correct. As I said, I lived in Switzerland for I think 8 years in Switzerland, and I lived in mainland Spain for 4 years before that. And that funny enough, that's where I wrote Spanish Gypsy when I was living in Spain, because I'd just been to Madrid and I saw this amazing Spanish guitarist. If you want to see good guitar players, go to Spain. There's some unbelievably good guitar players. Anyway, so I kind of had that in mind. That was the inspiration for writing Spanish Gypsy, actually. Living in Spain and watching this guitarist in Plaza del Sol in Madrid. But yeah, I was thinking about this today, funnily enough, is that I don't know whether it's just that distorted perception that you have because of social media, but sometimes when I see other musicians or people that make trance or, you know, involved in this scene, it seems like that's all they do is make trance music, and they seem to spend all their time in a little studio making trance music, which is cool. And when I first started out back in the Goa days, that's all I used to do. I was like fanatic about it. But I've got lots of different interests, and I find it better from the point of view of writing music that I don't be stuck on one place like writing music all the time, just doing this one thing. I tend to find that I tend to do better where I've got lots of different things and feed my mind in different ways, and then I write some music. It seems to work better for me. But if I look at as I said, maybe it's social media, but it seems like a lot of other producers that you only see pictures of them in the studio doing studio-y things with, you know, synthesizer things, and that seems to be what they do. But it's probably a distortion because of social media. That's the only pictures they post of themselves.
Yeah, and how is the collaboration with Yanis going? So are you visiting him in his studio then, as I gather, and or you do tracks
That's right.
there on site together, or you exchange files over the internet?
Hasn't been here yet, but I've been to the Stockholm Synth Museum a couple of times and stayed, and we've just got focused and got lots of music written, and then once we've done 90% of the work on each track, and it track's written, then I could come back here and then produce it, or he could produce a track, and we ping pong them back and forth. But the actual writing thing, I think, is important to do together, because otherwise you end up with a Cosmosis track or a Filteria track.
Yeah.
You know. But to actually, because a lot of the writing is in the decision making, and if you're both sharing that, should this be or should that be, then it makes it much more of a decision, a collaboration.
What are your plans? So it's going to be an EP or an album, and
No,
what can we expect it?
It's an album. We've got it. I think we've got it in the bag. Maybe we're doing one. Is it one more track? Hang on. Yes, there's one more track to be done. But we have more tracks than I think we've got 9, and we need 8 for the album. So we've got one that we're gonna. Oh, actually, I think we've got 10, but one's for an EP. So yeah, we've got an album, but we want to finish one more track, and then we'll shuffle them around and see which ones work best together and which ones are the best ones that we want to put on the album. But yeah, it's sounding good. It's sounding quite well. It's sounding a little bit old school at some points, and but with a fatter, newer production, values rather than the old style of production, which is a bit muddy, to be frank. But these days now we got more kind of modern production, so it sounds kind of clear, fat, and we've played a few gigs together, playing the material out, so we know what works.
Do you have so you don't have a release date yet, but I think the first kind of like Ultravibes live act is, as it's official, would be this year's Ozora, or is there any other gig planned for that?
Well, the last we played an Ultravibe gig at that ill-fated party location on the 7th of October. We played on the 6th of October in Israel at that location. And we got out maybe 18 hours before it all kicked off.
Oh my God.
We drove back to Tel Aviv, and I was woken up. I was having breakfast in the hotel because of a flight. I was flying out that day. I was woken up by the sound of explosions on the outskirts. In the hotel. Uh-oh. So, and then I went to the airport. I got a ride to the airport, and there was some further explosions and a lot of panic in the airport. But I managed to get the flight out that day to Istanbul, a couple of hours late, but at least I got out. But yeah. So that was an Ultravibe gig. We've played in Israel a couple of times as a doing some collaboration tracks, but not as Ultra. I don't know. That was the first gig that we were billed as Ultravibe in Israel, that particular ill-fated party.
But there's still some work on the album going on, but sooner or later it's going to be an official act that you guys going to play as together, right?
Yes, exactly. The thing is, though, that the record label that we're going to release on based in Tel Aviv. So we're going to have to figure out exactly what's happening, because the whole situation is obviously out of control over there. So we don't actually know quite what's going on at the moment. So yeah, we're going to have to discuss that quite soon. But the point is, the important thing is that we've nearly got the last track finished, and then we can choose the album tracks. And the music is almost complete for the album. How we're going to release it or who with, we've got to ask some questions about that yet, because of the whole situation's out of control. Yeah.
What are your plans for Cosmosis this year? And
Well, I don't really have a lot of specific plans, but it's got to be said. I've been focusing on the Ultravibe thing. So
Yeah, and by the way, how did the name come up for that one? How did you decide on that one?
kicked around a load of names and tried desperately to find something that hadn't already been used or
Yeah.
didn't sound too much like, the beard of Shiva, or that kind of goer cliche thing.
Mm.
So that's really that's what we came up with in the end. It's quite difficult these days to come up with a name, because if you look on the internet, it's just any name that you can think of. It's like, oh right, there's 3 bands called that already. Oh, there's 5 bands called that already. So, but Ultravibe wasn't. So that's what we came up with in the end.
thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. It's nice to chat.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot. And if not earlier, well, hope to catch up with you at Ozora when you will be playing there. Yes.
Come say hello.
That was our interview with Cosmosis. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed creating it. Can't wait to listen to the Ultravibe stuff.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait to see them at Ozora. Thanks for listening, people. We compiled a playlist of all the music mentioned in this episode that you can listen to on Spotify and Apple Music. The link is in the show notes. If you enjoy the podcast, hit the like button and be sure to subscribe for more. If you have any ideas, questions, leave a comment or message us on Facebook or Instagram.